What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Drums and Drams whiskey review. My name is Cameron, and today we have a very special episode. I'm going to be taking a look at Stagg, not Junior, Batch 18. All right, so before I get into it here, I just wanted to take an opportunity to quickly kind of recap my thoughts on the last few Stagg Junior releases. So first, let's go ahead and rewind 18 months to the release of Stagg Junior Batch 15. In this case, it wasn't something I was super crazy about at the time. It was a little bit bright, a little bit ethanol forward for me. Lots of vanilla, lots of sweetness, and kind of like strawberry candy notes. But overall, it just wasn't quite what I guess I look for when I think of Stagg Junior. I'm typically thinking of a dark profile, lots of grape notes, lots of dark cherry. But if you look back to my review, which I released about a week ago at this point, and I'll drop that up here on a link card and link it in the description of this video, I took batch 16 and batch 17, I reviewed them both, and I did sort of a comparison, and that was very eye-opening for me. Batch 16 is more of that profile that I mentioned that I look for. The dark grape, really sweet notes, although it was kind of one-dimensional. And then when you got to batch 17, which is the final batch to carry the Stagg Junior name, now we've removed Junior and it's just, I guess, Stagg Bourbon. That batch 17 was on the bitter side. It had some really, really off notes for me. I talked about latex, fried food, ash, and soot. It was definitely a strange batch and not something that I really cared for, but it was a great chance to side by side what I feel like are two distinct profiles that you typically get when you're talking about Stagg Junior. It's either a dark batch, like batch 16, batch 13, batch 12. These are on the darker side of things, sweet fruits. And then when you look at like a batch 15, a batch 17, they're a little bit on the lighter side. So that's the setup for the video. Basically thinking about what I like in a Stagg Junior, dark notes, sweet profile, a decent bit of oak influence, and what I don't like, which is light stuff, bitterness, all of that. And that is kind of how I'm going to be taking a look now at this batch 18, or I guess if we want to call it Stagg Bourbon Batch 1. All right, so there we have it. Let's go ahead now and head over to the bottle breakdown. But just before we do, please hit that like button. And, as you watch this video, if you do enjoy what you're seeing, consider subscribing to the channel because it really, really helps. On to the bottle breakdown now for this Stagg Bourbon Batch 18. The age of this product is not stated, but it is rumored to be between 7 and 9 years old. The proof of this particular batch is 131 or 65.5% ABV. When we're looking at the mash bill of Stagg Junior, it is mash bill 1, which is the low rye bourbon mash bill from Buffalo Trace. SRP of this product is around $60, and in terms of secondary price, it's going to be somewhere between $275 and $350. So let's go ahead and get it out of the way right now. Obviously, this product is not going to be worth those secondary prices. Again, somewhere around $300, $350 for the most recent batches of Stagg Junior that hit the market. And when you go back in time, you're going to see things around $500, $700, $900. And I know they're collectible, they have different batch numbers, but it's just getting out of hand at this point. So please, if you can help it at all costs, do not pay those kind of prices for this bottle. But I don't want to harp on that too much. Let's go ahead and check out this Stagg Bourbon Batch 18 on the nose and see what we get. Wow, so this is a really, really woody batch of Stagg. I almost said Stagg Junior. I got to get that out of my vernacular. Very woody, lots of vanilla right away, and a ton of dry, dark fruits, almost like plums and figs. You're not getting the juicy cherry and the juicy grape notes that you sometimes get on Stagg Junior, or Stagg in this case. This one is definitely a drier fruit profile on the nose. Yeah, and in terms of the spice quality here, it is a very spicy whiskey. I would say it's leaning on more of like a chili pepper spice, some orange going on here, orange citrus, which is not a very common note for me on Stagg Junior. I typically think of those orange notes or citrus heavy whiskeys being like a rye whiskey or maybe being something from MGP. But I am getting a good bit of orange on this batch. And there's also something distinctly green about this. It's sort of like a rye spice herbaceous greenness, but also I'm getting kind of a fruity, almost like that green Jolly Rancher. And I continue to talk about Jolly Ranchers in my reviews recently. I don't know what it is. I haven't even been eating Jolly Ranchers. I'm on a kick on this right now, but I'm gonna say it. There's some sort of like green apple Jolly Rancher and like a green herbaceous rye profile here too. Yeah, let's go ahead and get this on the palate here. I'll come back to the nose and see how this thing kind of opens up after I acclimate to it. But cheers. Let's check out Stagg Bourbon Batch 18 on the palate. Holy crap, that is intense. So 131 proof, definitely a higher proof whiskey. But this particular batch of Stagg Junior, oh my God, it's still developing. The spice is still ramping up. Wow, if you like high proof whiskeys, you are going to go crazy for this batch of Stagg. Holy crap. All of those woody notes I talked about on the nose, it's almost like a dry woodiness that you would think about when you taste maybe like an Old Forester barrel strength pick. Even Booker's has some of that dry woodiness, although this definitely doesn't have that Booker's peanut quality to it. That note, the dry wood and the chili pepper combined, that is what hits you first and foremost and develops this thing on the palate from front to back. Insanely intense, but never too much. I think this is right at that breaking point of undrinkable and wow, this is a fantastic bourbon. So with that said, I'm gonna give it a thumbs up on drinking experience right away. Let's get a second sip now. Cheers. So now that my palate is ready for all of that intensity, this is a really nice batch. The biggest fruit note that I'm getting on the palate right now is actually that orange quality that I was finding on the nose, which is kind of off profile for Stagg. Almost like an orange soda, if I had to really kind of quantify it. It's reminding me of an orange soda in the sense that it's also a little bit effervescent on the palate, a little bit cooling and bubbly and yeah, I don't know, feels a little carbonated almost. Now, the vanilla notes are also kind of sweetening up the palate quite a bit, and all of those dry, dark fruits are what linger in the background now as you're getting into the finish. It's slightly bitter, a little bit of a bittersweet chocolate note, the dry prunes, all that kind of stuff. But what I like about it is that when I think about batch 17, which I talked about in my last video, that had a lot of weird bitter off notes, and the bitterness in this particular batch is a little bit more flavorful and sensible and kind of integrated into the whiskey itself. While it is bitter, it's not like an off note, if that makes sense. So I actually enjoy the bitterness for the fact that it's providing sort of a holistic experience from front to back. It's spicy, it's sweet, and a little bit savory in the mid palate. And then as you get into the finish, you're getting a little bit of bitterness. So it's a very comprehensive, full-bodied, and complex whiskey. When you go back to the nose, you start to get into that bittersweet chocolate note that I found on the back end here. And also, I mentioned sort of a savory quality on the mid palate. I would almost classify that as like a teriyaki note. And I know that sounds a little bit weird, but I've been more in tune with some of these savory kind of qualities in the whiskeys that I'm drinking, especially recently, as I've had a lot of craft distillers products, 30-gallon barrel aged stuff where you get some soy sauce, teriyaki, beef broth, mushroom, those kinds of notes. You get a little bit of teriyaki on this batch, and I think it could be a little weird for some people, but all in all, it combines very nicely with that dark chocolate or bittersweet chocolate note and also the woody qualities. All right, last sip. Just a really nice batch of Stagg Junior here. I would say this is kind of a workhorse batch. It really does it all. When I compared this to all of the previous batches, all the way back to batch 12, I found that there were qualities of each of those individual batches that kind of manifest in this one. You get some of the brighter notes of like a batch 15, batch 17. You also get some of the bitterness and complexity of like a batch 13, You get some of the dark fruit notes of 14 and 16. And I could go on and on about this, but the point is, this batch of Stagg, I gotta stop thinking junior. This batch of Stagg is so complex and so diverse in its profile that I feel like if you liked any batch from this point all the way back to batch 12, you're gonna like this one. And frankly, if you just like Stagg Junior and you're not comparing batches and trying to figure out what's better, you're gonna love this. The drinking experience is fantastic. From front to back, the spice quality, the mouthfeel, it's big, it's bold. The finish is insanely long because of all of that spice. I mean, my mouth is like kind of numb. It's tingling right now. There's so much going on with this. You're going to really enjoy this batch, I think, regardless. So with that said, let me give you my final thoughts on this Stagg Bourbon Batch 18. First and foremost, who's gonna like this whiskey? I think any Buffalo Trace fans out there, anybody who has enjoyed the last 6 or 7 batches of Stagg Junior, if you're looking for sweet oak, dark fruits, vanilla, high proof, really spicy, something with an intense drinking experience, this is gonna be a great whiskey for you to check out. And I think more specifically, if you like Old Forester barrel strength picks, some of the 14-year Lucky 7 single barrels that have been coming out, if you like Booker's, this has a little bit of that dry wood note in there as well. Or even if you like high proof stuff from craft distillers, maybe the stuff aged in 30-gallon barrels when you get some of that savory quality, some of that, I don't know, teriyaki, soy sauce, some of the stuff that you get from those 30-gallon barrels. Middle West Spirits, 291, Journeyman Distillery, you're gonna find something in here to really enjoy as well. Who is not gonna like this whiskey? I think anyone looking for a refined, distinctly aged, and low-proof drinking experience like a summer sipper, this is not gonna be for you. This batch drinks well above its 131 proof. In terms of value here, I would say at SRP around that $60 price point, this is a fantastic value, as are most batches of Stagg Junior. At secondary, $275 to $350. I can't recommend this whiskey. I would say the most I would pay for it is somewhere between $120 to $150, which kind of falls in line with other special releases from main distilleries like this. Finally, rating on this, I'm gonna go with an 86 out of 100, which is a solid B. I think this is a great, again, workhorse, do-it-all batch of Stagg Junior, where you're getting a lot of different qualities, all the way from vanilla to green qualities, rye spice, green apple, Jolly Rancher, orange, dry dark fruits, bittersweet chocolate, oak. You're getting just about everything from this batch. So can I recommend it? Absolutely, but you just have to make sure that the price you're paying feels good for you. Let's just say it that way. So thank you so much for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button, consider subscribing to the channel, and turn on that bell notification button to find out when I'm going live and when I'm dropping new content. If you want to further support Drums and Drams, you can always do that over on the Patreon page. Otherwise, I'm going to get out of here, and I'll see you guys next time here on Drums and Drams. Again, check out this new Stagg Batch 18, and let me know what you think in the comments. I'll be very curious to hear from all of you. I'll see you guys next time here on Drums and Drams. Cheers.